think a lot of us see it almost as a sign of weakness when we express our emotions. That's just the way we've been raised, taught, and feel. And with that being said, I'm going to give a little backstory of my life, not for sympathetic reasons. I don't want sympathy. It's just used today. Sound is a way that I communicate. Music to me expresses all my emotions. When I'm playing a song and you listen to the words, a lot of the times you can understand how I'm feeling based on the song I'm playing. It relates a lot. So going back to my high school days, I had it pretty well. I was, you could say, one of the better football players on the team. I was popular. I had my little flings with the ladies. I had my dream car. Drove a 1984 El Camino. Loved that thing. And I had some extremely close friendships. So on the outside, I looked like I had everything I could want. And I looked extremely happy. But on the inside, I was miserable because I forgot the one true important thing in my life. I kept trickling him down the line. And after a great football practice where I was hanging out with friends, laughing, having a great time, and I got into my car by myself and began to play not Christian music, but sad, depressing music. All that was on my mind during that time was that I wanted to end. Suicide was a constant thing that was stuck on my mind. It never left my mind. And when I went home, I looked at my parents, and they asked how I was doing. It was a smile. It was, I'm doing great. Go to my room, lock myself away. Because I didn't want them to see me as someone that was weak and really struggling. But you see, I couldn't understand, because to me, I had everything some people could want in high school, right? Like I had the dream high school scenario. And I didn't understand, and I didn't see it as fair, because yet I felt this way. And that's when I came to the realization that life isn't fair. Because if life was fair, we all would have died on a cross. It wouldn't have been Jesus. He didn't have to do what he did that day, but he did it anyways. You see, and then God began to work on me from that point. He began to remove things from me. Football went away because of an injury, and at the time I didn't understand, and football was everything for me. He took it away. Why? He took away things to where I had to sell my car to get ready for college. I had to get a different car. I didn't want that car. I wanted my dream car. The fling stopped with all the little girlies, the high school little flings. Those went away. Friendships tore down. A lot of the friendships I had in high school, gone. And I began to get even more depressed, where every day driving to work or driving to college, after every telephone pole that I passed, I thought to myself, you could just swerve. Just you're one swerve away and it's done. But it's not done. Because the pain that I'm feeling doesn't just end. It may end for me, but the pain itself doesn't end. It would have gone to many others. You see, and when I would play the specific music, the depressing music, I begin to get worse and worse and worse. So when I found Hannah, I understood that in the relationship, I began to be an example. And I didn't want her to see someone who attended church, that to be the example. So I began to lock in or dedicate fully into church. I started to shift who I was, because I didn't want that to be her first example. Because if I'm who I was and she's going to church, why would she feel the need to seek God and change who she is? She wouldn't feel that need. So I began to dedicate. And one of the first things that I worked on changing was the music that I listened to. Instead of listening to those depressing songs and all that junk, if we will, I switched it to Christian songs. Now, I'm not saying all music is bad music. All right, there are some songs that I listen to, like my wife and I's wedding song. I love that song. Not all songs are bad songs. But to go from bad, extremely bad, I needed to go to extremely good. So I switched. Now, in Ezekiel 28:13, the Bible kind of gives a reference. And some people interpret this towards the end when it's talking about the pipes and the instruments. Some people interpret it as Satan being made with musical parts. I interpret it as Satan being involved with music. I don't necessarily see it as him being made of music, but being involved in the worship and the music. And if the Bible states this, and Satan had a role in leading worship and music, what do you think Satan's greatest strength would be? You see, Satan is very manipulative, and he's great at it. But if he's almost mastered music, why wouldn't Satan use music as his strongest point? Because the sound of music is almost everywhere you go. You can hear music in an instant's notice. And if Satan has a little dive into that music, then he's granted a slight power, if you will. Satan has no power. But if you allow it, that's when he gets his power. Who is the artist that you're listening to? What's their background? What do they do? Really dive into your artist. What's the words say? Sometimes we hear a great beat and you completely ignore the words. What are the words in the song saying? Sadly, some of these people claim to be Christian artists, and the lives they're living are not of a Christian person. We have to be careful. We have to be careful what we're listening to, and we have to be careful what we allow our sound to be. When I'm talking about your sound, I mean your emotions, who you are. What is your sound? See, I love the other day that Hannah says to, and she says it frequently, she'll come up and sing, and then she'll go, I'm not a very good singer. I'm not great at singing. I don't know how to sing. And that's when this scripture hit my mind. And it's in Psalm 150 and verse 6. And it says, let everything that have breath praise ye the Lord. You see, it doesn't say all ye good singers or all you good looking. No. It says all ye things, or let everything that have breath praise ye the Lord. That doesn't just mean humans. Animals have breath. Guess what? Praise ye the Lord. You see, if you're not a good singer, but you're praising the Lord, I'm going to be praising right along with you. If you're not the greatest looking like me, guess what? We're going to be praising together. It doesn't matter if you're white, you're black, you're Asian. It doesn't matter. We're all going to be praising the Lord, and we're all going to be doing it together. We're one. So what is the music in your heart? What are you going to do with that sound? What emotions do you have? You see, Brianna, you led service today. You listened to God today. You expressed your emotions, which led others to express their emotions. That's part of ministry, is being a leader. Just by starting off a song can spark someone else, and that can spark many more people. There's importance to it. Instead of hiding those sounds deep in our heart like we like to, because it's not easy to express, why don't we bring them out in worship? Why don't we sing like we're free? See, there was one man that really kind of sparked this message for me. And when you're talking about the sound of music, I think you have to bring David into the discussion. David sung all the time. But a lot of the times I feel like we only sing when there's joy or when we're happy. We'll sing along with the song. But David did it in different ways all the time. You see, I brought a couple examples that David did. He did it in times of deliverance. And this is in 2 Samuel 22, and he was singing when he was rescued from all of his enemies. He did it in Psalm 18 when he was singing when he was rescued from enemies and Saul. But he also did it during times of distress. Singing during times of distress. I feel like in distress we'll say a quick prayer or we'll say Jesus, but our first reaction isn't to sing praises to him. But in Psalm 59, it talks about David when he was attacked by soldiers that Saul sent. And it says in verse 16, it says, "But as for me, I will sing about your power. Each morning I will sing with joy about your unfailing love, for you have been my refuge, a place of safety when I am in distress. O my strength, to you I sing praises, for you, O God, are my refuge, the God who shows me unfailing love." When we begin service, yes, we open up with prayer requests, but the beginning of service starts with singing. Why? Well, I like to think that that is an amp of our emotion. Your emotion is in singing. When you're preaching, sometimes it's just one person. You hear the amens, but it's one person. But when you're singing, everyone is involved in singing. Everyone is involved in welcoming the Spirit. Everyone is expressing their emotions to the Spirit of the Lord. And I love that we start that way. And it makes preaching flow so smoothly when the presence is already in this place. Now, I'm going to kind of switch here, but intertwine it into the message. You see, 2 weeks ago, Sister Betty kind of blew a cap off the service, if you will. Blew the roof with joy and with laughter. And you see, there was something that I talked to Brother Wolford about the other day. And it was something that I saw in this place and something that I felt in this place. And it began when I was back there watching and praying. And you see, I closed my eyes and I began to pray. And I didn't understand, but I felt the burden of the church. And I've never seen visions quite like I have like that day. But when I opened my eyes, the entire church had chains wrapped around them. I had never seen this. I've never felt this. And I began to pray because I couldn't move. I was stuck in the sound booth. And it seemed like everyone was stuck where they were. And I began to pray. And I said, God, I don't understand. I don't know why you chose me to feel this way. And at that moment, I could move. But I saw chains. And I walked up, and it started with Bree. And I started to pray for her. And I started to pray, God, to let these chains go. God, the church is bound. And I watched the chains fall. I watched the chains fall. And I began to make my way to the front. And I put my hands on Brother Davey. And I watched the chains fall. And though I didn't touch everybody, God pointed out individually to each person in the church. And I turned around and I would pray for them. And I watched the chains fall. And at that point, when I saw and I turned around, the church floor had chains all over the floor. And I began to jump right up front. And I began to shout because I understood what that meant. Because I had seen freedom and I had seen it and I had felt it. But that wasn't our freedom. I had seen it from other churches and other church members, the freedom they had. And it looked so nice. But our church didn't have their freedom. We had to claim our freedom. And I understood at that point we were free. The bondage that had chained us down was done. We were free. All the chains of every church member had been dropped that day. And I began to jump in joy. And I turned around and nobody else was jumping. And I didn't understand. And that's when a thought came to me, and please don't interpret it as me calling everyone a dog. That is not my intention here at all. But when you have an outside dog and you put it on a leash for years upon years, when there's years of bondage, and you take the leash off the dog will tend to still only reach its boundary that it could once only reach, even though it's free. You see, I understood that we were free at that point, but God had not told everybody they were free yet. It was at that moment that everything went black. I have no idea what happened for 15, 20 seconds. I have no idea, no recollection. But I asked people, what did I say? I said, you yelled out, you're free. You're free. You see, they might not hear it from me, but if God tells you you're free, then you're free today. Your chains are broken today. Enough is enough. Enough of the bondage, enough of all the mess, the stress that we live in. The chains have been broken for each and every one of you today. Freedom is today. There were many songs that have related as I begin to work on this message of freedom. Brianna sang a song today confirming freedom. There have been signs of freedom that have been laid out for every single one of us today. Today, we claimed our freedom. No more are we bound. No more is our music a sad, soft, low-tone song. No, we're a powerful, fighting horse. We're blazing through. We're pushing through. We're persevering. Each of us have our own stories of we were once here, but now we're setting the example over here. We've changed from what once was, and now the miracles and the blessings are coming, and we're inspiring because we're leaders in the church, and we're shifting and we're changing, and instead of holding our music in, our music is expressing outward, and we're beginning to reach others with our sound. Because when you hear on the radio, you hear a good beat or a good sound that catches your ear. And you want to find that song. And the first thing you do is you go over to your YouTube or internet and you search up that song. And I got to hear that song. Well, it's the same way with us. When you express your music, people hear that. And they want to find what that is. And what that is Jesus. And you begin to work with them. And you begin to show them. This is what the Bible says. This is what the Bible expresses. Can I do a Bible study with you? Yes, yes, yes. Why? Because I want what you have. I want that feeling. You have freedom. That's not my freedom, but I know that you have it. And I want that freedom. So I'm going to try everything I can to get that freedom because you have it. I can have it too. I love to explain to people my past story. I don't like sympathy. But why do I explain that? Because I was once in a terrible, miserable place of once was. And I was close to making the biggest mistake of my life. But now, because I felt alone, even though the Lord was with me, watching over me, I never went over the edge and did the unthinkable. I never went across. And now I have the opportunity to reach people who have been close like me, who once felt like they had nothing, and say there's freedom. There's freedom on the other side. If you'll just climb the fence and get on the other side, your chains are broken. Nothing can stop you. That once tempting music loses its power on you. And instead, when I wake up on Sunday mornings and open Spotify, I'm playing Christian music to start the morning before I even get to church. Why? Because I like to set the atmosphere at home and be an example at home. And if I do it at church, then I'm going to do it at home. We're not going to just attend church and be a one-sided, put on a show and go home. No. We need to do this at home. Church is great because we're with our brothers and sisters and the presence feels strong and you feel free. But what happens when you leave the doors and then it just becomes close family, or you feel alone? Are you going to set the example you do in church as you do in the world? I said Wednesday, the thought to me came to be in the world but not of the world. It's important that we're in the world and we're expressing our sound of music. Why? Because there's people in the world that need to hear God's word. There's people in the world that need to feel relief. The disciples were in the world. They were reaching places across many nations and they were going everywhere. Why? Because there was people that needed to hear the word. God, Jesus traveled to people, to free people, to express his sound to people. Why? Why? Because he understood that there was people that desperately needed him. He understood that there was people that were struggling with pain and suffering, and their sound wasn't producing the right sound. God has created each and every one of us in his own perfect image of us. He did not make a mistake with you. There has not been a mistake that God has made of your image. So when he gave you a sound, that's your personal song. That is your personal music. How are you going to use that song? How will you express your sound? I'm done hiding my song. I come to the front and I usually tend to pray with my mouth shut, and in my mind, I'm praying. Why hide when if someone hears my prayer, that could spark? Brother Miles used to sit in a pew and moan out. And the presence that you would feel off of Brother Miles would make you begin to tear up. And it was a welcoming presence of the Lord. And just a sound could turn the entire service upside down, if you will. And the roof would explode off of a sound. Why? It's not words. It's not inspiring words for people to get behind, but it's from the heart. It was his emotions pouring out to God. It was the sound Brother Miles had with Jesus. And he was great at expressing it. And it's hard to express, and it's hard to talk about our emotions. But we got to break out of our shells. The chains are broken. You're no longer bound. It's time to play your song. Let your song sing out and watch what it can do to others.